Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. It's your boy B. I got Country and Aaron Beresin. Let's get it.
You are now tuned into the podcast.
All right. So a lot of stuff's been happening in the world of football. We don't have time to cover all of it. So let's dive right into the main headline. Former Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, winner of the 2024 Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, was widely regarded as the second best QB in the draft and was projected to be picked somewhere in the top 10, but ultimately was selected in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Aaron, tell me what you think about this.
I think that if you believe in your heart that Shedeur Sanders is a 5th round quarterback, you didn't watch any football over the past 2 years and you have no good way to evaluate the position. If somebody came up to me and told me that he was going to drop and he was going to get taken in the late 2nd round, I'd have been like, I'm okay with that, because even though I believe he's a 1st round quarterback, some of the stuff that he comes with might push you off of him in the 1st round and make you take him in the 2nd or 3rd round. What I just saw with Shedeur Sanders going in the 5th round, with everybody knowing that he was either the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback in this draft, tells me that the owners and the GMs, but specifically more the owners, were just trying to make an example out of him. Now, some of this is Shedeur's fault. I'm not ridding Shedeur of blame here. He walks around arrogant. He talks like he's proven something in the NFL when he's only proven something in college. His dad and his brothers egg him on in doing that. Dion is always touting him as the best thing coming. But we have to remember a couple things here. First, the landscape of college football has gotten changed by the NIL, which means that there's guys going into the NFL now that have already gotten paid close to NFL money and feel like they've made it and feel like they don't have to prove anything when they walk into these buildings. My belief is that Shedeur had certain places that he really didn't want to go. He went into these meetings acting nonchalant, and owners felt that handing the keys of the franchise to someone who seemed to not care where he went or care what you think of him was probably a bad idea. But to insinuate that this is a 5th round talent, there's no evidence of that statistically. There's no evidence of that in the tape. There's no evidence of that in watching him play. This guy completed 74% of his passes with no offensive line and no running game. He had the highest, I believe, completion percentage and the 5th highest QBR in college football. So if you want to say Jackson Dart is my guy and I'm taking him over Shedeur Sanders, once it got to like Dylan Gabriel, this looks like collusion at this point. And I think the owners just wanted to make an example out of Shedeur. It's like, hey, if you're going to make your money in college and think that you're going to come in here and dictate what's going on in the NFL and the NFL draft, you are sadly mistaken. And we're going to prove it to you. And we're just going to let you drop until someone feels like taking a flyer on you, because we don't like your approach to the NFL draft, which used to be, I'm about to get my family generational wealth. And I think since he didn't kiss the ring, this is the result of that.
I applaud you for being nice about it, but like let's get 100% real. I don't think any coaches or GMs for that matter that has got their job on the line going into next season is going to pass up on a sure thing, no matter what the attitude is. I mean, i.e. James Pierce Jr., there was a lot of questions around him. Mike Green went in the 2nd round. Like there was, 2-3 sexual assault charges.
Second or third, right? Yeah.
Come on, bro. Like, I really don't think that they basically blackballed Shedeur just to teach him a lesson. I think it's the fact that Shedeur is a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. I think that Deion Sanders shot himself in the foot going in, comparing their situation to Manning's. Eli Manning was a beast coming out of college. Sure thing. 100% sure thing. Great quarterback. coming out of college. Shador Sanders takes unnecessary sacks. He holds the ball too long. He doesn't have extremely great arm talent. So I think it basically came down to Shador. A lot of people thought Shador Sanders has already reached his ceiling, whereas a lot of these other quarterbacks had room to grow. Then on top of that, you got to deal with the Deion Sanders circus. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think for 1 minute that people are going to blackball a guy who's going to help them save their job. Brian Daboll, I think we can agree. Brian Daboll and whoever the Giants GM is that like went viral with the Saquon Barkley, like they need a prayer, bro.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to risk their futures just on some spike shit. I think that Shador Sanders, we can all agree, this quarterback class, Cam Ward would not have went number one if he would have went in last year. He would have been the seventh best quarterback coming off the board. This was not a great quarterback class.
Probably,
right? So Shador Sanders, he's average at best, man. Now, do we know? We don't know the future, right? We don't know the future because I'll be honest with you, I didn't believe in Bo Nix at all last year. So I could possibly be wrong. Everybody else could possibly be wrong. But when you look at the tape, Shador Sanders is not great quarterback. The only real thing he's got going for him is his accuracy and his completion percentage. Everything else is subpar compared to these other guys in terms of growth.
Is Shador a fifth round talent?
Listen, as I was getting closer to the draft process and going through everything and trying to figure out, where the Commanders could pick and everything and going through all the, analysts, there was one guy who is great at predicting and telling people what quarterbacks actually could be. He predicted Trey Lance would be a bust. He had Trey Lance as undraftable. He told everybody, he said, I think Shador Sanders is undraftable. He said, I think Shador Sanders is a career backup. I think he's already reached his ceiling. And I think that you get what you get with Shador Sanders, whereas other guys have room for growth. And I think that's what it came down to. I don't think for 1 minute, they tried to say Colin Kaepernick was blackballed. Let's get into that. Colin Kaepernick's last season, his arm was gone, dude. And he was terrible.
I think you're proving the point, though, with the Kaepernick. The point is not whether he's good enough to play in the NFL, because I believe he still was to at least be a backup. The point is the juice worth the squeeze if he's just going to be a backup on your team? I don't believe for a second that guys like Dylan Gabriel are better and going to be a better NFL quarterback than Shador Sanders is. I also, you said he got sacked a lot last year. Of course he did. He had a terrible offensive line, and his running back was averaging 2.5 yards per carry. They had drop back and pass every single time. And obviously when you watch NFL football, the other team's dropping back and passing. Everybody's just blitzing. The edges are coming off. There's no regard for the run. And even if you do try to run, usually the interior lineman can kind of scoop that up. So I just saw a guy turn a collegiate program around in 2 years that won one game before he got there, had no offensive line, and had the highest completion percent. I mean, it has to stand for something. Now, would I have, once it got past the second or third round, if there's teams that actually viewed him as a backup quarterback, I can totally understand why you wouldn't want to bring Shador Sanders in as a backup with everything that he has going on around him. I can totally understand that, but when you're talking about, the GMs and the coaches aren't always the ones making these decisions. Sometimes the owner, who likes to have control everything and is a powerful figure and doesn't want to be questioned or checked, he goes down and he makes that decision. He says, hey, I don't want this guy in my building if he's going to be a backup. So unless you think he's going to be the starter from day one here, I don't want him in the building. And he can do that, given the fact that, again, these guys are coming in now having made all the money. The NFL did a very good job positioning themselves as the life-changing thing that happens when you get drafted. You get drafted in the NFL now, your entire life changes. So I need you to bow down and kiss the ring in our meetings, because I'm about to change you and your family's life. That's not it now. They don't have to do that because Shador just made $5 million before he even entered into that meeting. So if he goes in a little bit nonchalant, and he was probably very nonchalant, he was probably arrogant. Again, I'm not excusing Shedeur Sanders. We know how it comes off, and we know how the media portrays it, and we know kind of how he is. But this is also a guy that's never gotten in any trouble outside. You never hear about him doing drugs or drinking. He doesn't have any issues with females. So if I have a guy that's coming off arrogant, and I think he's a good quarterback, I'm still taking him in the first couple rounds. Once he got past round 3, country, you have to know there's something else going on. You have to.
Dude, it's like I said, you're going to pass up on a good quarterback. You're not going to pass up on a great quarterback. I don't think Shedeur Sanders was a great quarterback, and then you bring him in the building, right? If you don't think he's a great quarterback, which means you don't think he's going to start for you, you bring him in the building, he's a backup, then the starter starts messing around. Next thing you know, Deion Sanders is on Twitter starting a whole little freaking rant going on.
He hasn't done that anyway.
The fans in a frenzy. Man, that's a circus, bro. You do not look. If Shedeur Sanders had the talent to withstand the circus, he would have been a first round pick. He does not have the talent that he's shown on tape to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't even know if Cam Ward's got the starting talent.
Real quick, so when the draft experts are all saying he's the second best quarterback on the board, and let's just take it away from the draft experts for a second because they've never played football, right? I know everybody likes to clown Dan Orlovsky. You know how hard it is to be a 12-year quarterback in the NFL? It's difficult, right? So I know we like to clown backup quarterbacks. He played for the Lions, whatever. He had him as the second best prospect. This is a guy who knows how to watch film better than you and I will ever be able to watch film because he played the game for so long, and he's saying he's the second best quarterback. So why is it now that all of a sudden we get to make the judgment that Shedeur is not the second or third best quarterback in the draft, even if you think Jackson Dart's better than him, but everybody else's opinion doesn't matter?
Okay, when Dan Orlovsky came on there after Shedeur slid out of the first round, Dan Orlovsky went on there, said everything I said about him taking unnecessary. He said selfish sacks. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, somebody put on there that I can't believe Dan Orlovsky is now a hater, and Deion Sanders retweeted it and said, "Oh yes, he is." Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what and you just said Dan Orlovsky is a well-respected, right? Mm-hmm. Deion Sanders doesn't care, dude. It's a circus, bro. If he does not have the talent,
do you think Deion's a bigger problem than LeVar Ball was when the Ball brothers were coming up?
I don't know. I think he could be. I think Deion Sanders definitely could be.
I don't think he is at all.
I'll tell you why I think he could be.
It's close.
I'll tell you why I think he could be, because Deion Sanders has more influence on the culture than LeVar Ball did. Everybody just looked at LeVar Ball like he was crazy. People actually respect Deion Sanders, and a lot of people actually get behind Deion Sanders. So I think he definitely is a bigger problem in that respect to LeVar Ball.
He can have more influence, but the way he was talking and carrying himself, I think, was a lot. He's a lot calmer. Like, when you ask him questions in an interview setting, he is not going to shy away from what he has to say, but he's not going around like LeVar Ball was. And I think if you ask the Hornets and the Bulls, if they would have steered away from Lonzo and LaMelo, knowing what they know now about LeVar Ball, they wouldn't have, because it didn't end up being a problem. People go on press runs. Deion is also, by the way, going to be coaching at Colorado the entire season. He's not going over there to go ahead and try to influence the front office there. Now, if Shedeur thinks he's a starter in 3 or 4 years down the road, something happens where he wants to leave and Deion wants to tweet something out, these guys have so much money, dude. I think they don't care much about what people are saying outside of the locker room. We hear it with the Eagles all the time, all the noise outside the locker room. The only thing that matters is how people feel inside the locker room. There was never one negative report about Shedeur being a bad teammate. You know, he's treating his offensive linemen. He's a great leader. His teammates love him, and he flipped a collegiate program on its head. I don't know if someone walked into my office after I have the stack of proof of what they just did. They walk into my office, they're a little bit arrogant. I think the only way I'm not taking them if I need a quarterback is A, if they told me they didn't want to play for my franchise, or B, if I made an agreement with all the other owners that fuck this kid, he's like so arrogant and he thinks it's just going to be handed to him, and we need to prove a point to the future NIL generation that it doesn't come this easy, and I don't care how much money you have. I think there was some talk amongst ownership, and a stronger narrative than necessary was created.
Okay, so if that stronger narrative that everybody agreed on, is that going to protect Brian Daboll's job if they slip up? Is that going to protect the GM's job? Is that going to protect the GM and the head coaches that needed Shedeur Sanders? No, this is what happened. Shedeur Sanders basically, I think it was at NFL Honors. They was joking about him falling to number 9, and he was like, nah. Like, we ain't even
I didn't think he was
entertaining
going to fall
that.
outside the top 10 either.
Listen, dude, when they started saying Shedeur could slide all the way to 21, I started believing it because, like I said, he's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. And Deion Sanders doesn't have to go to all these owners' meetings and in the building. All he has to do is pick up his phone, hit X, and send some shit and start a shit storm for that organization with the fans and everything else,
I just believe that the owners did not like the fact that
I can't believe there's too many jobs on the line, bro. It's like saying a team's going to tank for another person, knowing you're not even going to get to pick that. You're going to use that pick next year.
Hey, the Patriots were about to get rid of Brady when he was working out with his own trainer and building his own brand, and Robert Kraft had to step in and stop that, and Bill Belichick wanted him out. We're talking about the GOAT here. So to think that this is some outlier and it never happens. Brady literally just wanted to work out with his own personal trainer and go on a specific diet and have his guy in the building. And after he stopped winning Super Bowls, they wanted to kick the GOAT out of the building for little stuff like that.
Bill Belichick truly thought Jimmy Garoppolo could be the next guy. If he didn't have a next guy,
then we all know how great
he'd have had a lot more leash, bro.
Then we all know how great coaches are at evaluating QB talent.
Well, dude, Jimmy Garoppolo looked good in San Francisco. He got him all the way to the Super Bowl.
Like, I don't know
about that.
Well, he wasn't asked to look good. He was asked to not make mistakes. So
yeah,
that's another thing. So like, listen, let's forget about all this for a second and just focus on like what Shedeur actually is and what I believe Shedeur is. I believe Shedeur is a guy that can make throws under pressure, which he's proven because he has no offensive line. He can fit in any dink and dunk system. He's completed 74% of his passes. Most of them were short passes. When he had time and Travis Hunter was on the field, he was able to complete deep passes. He was able to lead a team from being 1 win 2 seasons ago to a 10+ win season 2 years later. And it just seems to me like going to 2 places and flipping both of those programs around. He's a good enough leader with good enough intangibles to be a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. And maybe you don't take a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL in the first round, but you definitely take him in the first 3. Once it got past 3, I was like, this is there's something bigger going on here.
Okay, let's talk about the prospects. You got the Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants, New Orleans Saints. I think the only team that can legitimately make a claim, only claim you can legitimately make for a team is New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
I think the Giants, do you think Shedeur Sanders right now is better than Russell Wilson?
No, probably not. I mean, I don't know.
And if Russell Wilson starts shit in the bed, what do you think's going to happen? All right, let's go to the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers, right? If Aaron Rodgers is there and he starts shitting the bed, like we know he will, right?
Well, no, again, we have to look at the prospect and what systems he fits into. You know what and B actually brought this up to me the other day. There's actually 2 teams I thought he would be perfect for to just like sit for a year or be the backup if someone got injured because of the way he operates. One of them was the Miami Dolphins. I said to myself, Tua gets knocked out of the games all the time. Mike McDaniels, dink and dunk, screen passes, short passes, occasional deep pass. That's a perfect situation for Shedeur Sanders. I also was looking at the Rams and I was like, Matt Stafford's going to retire soon and they have Sean McVay and he does a lot of the same things. Shedeur Sanders takes the ball, gets it out quickly, and is extremely accurate with it. There's multiple systems in the NFL that fits into. I don't necessarily think that's New Orleans. I don't necessarily think that's the Giants, although I would say this. Do you believe that Daniel Jones is going to be a better quarterback in the NFL than Shedeur Sanders is going to be?
I was looking at the Colts. That was actually my team. I thought he'd be.
And not just that, but he had a great year under Daboll his first year. So there's teams with coaches that operate to Shedeur's strengths that all he had to do was sit for 4 to 8 games and you're going to win football games with him. You're just going to win football games because he's not going to make mistakes.
So, dude, why would you, if he's such a sure thing, why would all these coaches with their jobs on the line pass them up?
Because the owner comes down and he
No
says,
freaking way, dude. Ain't no, dude.
These
Owner
are
is not,
billion-dollar franchises, bro. They're billion-dollar franchises.
bro. The
okay?
owner is not going to dictate, tell a coach like, all right, man, I know your job's on the line and this dude can probably save it, but you can't pick him.
You don't think Jerry Jones does that? You
Dude,
don't think Mark Davis does
Jerry
that?
Jones is not your typical owner. When Jerry Jones didn't take Shador at 12 and didn't even consider taking Shador at 12, knowing Deion Sanders is like a son to him, I knew some shit was about to go down,
There's
bro.
a lot of owners that operate with ego rather than letting their GMs do the
It's
job.
Deion Sanders, dude.
You
we can
just
argue
had
all
one
day
of the
long.
owners in Washington that was dictating your draft for the last 20
Yeah,
years and just got
100%.
canned.
100%.
Jerry Jones did it. The Redskins did it for a while. The Raiders did it for a while. The Jets do it regularly. So you can't sit there and say that the owners don't make the decisions.
But they're doing
when we
it
know
for
the Browns.
They're doing it for people that they think can help their team, dude. They're not going to be like, this dude can help my team. I'm not going to pick him.
Your point was just that the owners don't make the decisions. They make the QB decisions all the time. So there can be collusion in that sense.
Dude, I'm not saying the owners can't make the decisions. What I'm trying to tell you is it's far-fetched to think that a GM and an owner and a coach with their job on the line is going to be handcuffed by an owner to not be able to freaking win, dude. Like, that makes no fucking sense. If it comes out it's collusion, I mean, dude, we're in the day of fucking of online, right? Fair. Internet trolls, everything. If it comes, it'll leak. But I guarantee you, it's because of his talent. We're gonna find it out, man. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. Like, they try to compare him to Lamar Jackson, try to compare him to who else slid, man? Chad Pennington, Aaron Rodgers slid, Geno Smith slid. Dude, I don't think he's better than any of those guys, man. Like, I just think that he got humbled 100% because of his talent, bro. It's not because of his attitude.
I can agree with you that maybe he wasn't a first round guy, although I think he was a first round guy. But if you don't believe he's a first round guy, you can make that argument to me and I'm going to listen because he doesn't have a very high ceiling. What I do believe he has in the draft out of anybody, maybe over the last couple years, is the highest floor. He's not going to walk onto an NFL field and shit the bed. That's just my opinion.
But you don't want a guy with the highest floor. You want a guy with the highest ceiling.
I agree.
So there you go.
Well, there it is. All right, look, the Cleveland Browns quarterback room is already loaded with 4 other QBs, including Heisman finalist Dylan Gabriel. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But speaking of the Browns, they received the 5th pick in the first round and the 4th round pick and the 2026 first round pick for pretty much Travis Hunter. Do you feel like the Jags got fleeced?
I think we can agree on this, Aaron. I think the Jags got fleeced. I think that, what was he, like 34 years old? I mean, dude's a baby face. Like, it's freak. Like, when you look at this picture, man, it looks like he sits around and plays video games all day. Dude, this dude, like, definitely got fleeced.
I think Travis Hunter is phenomenal, obviously. But he, like, to trade, to give the haul that he gave in order to get a guy that I personally believe is better as a defensive back than wide receiver, and I think wide receiver is more valuable than defensive back in today's NFL.
100%.
So to give up the haul, they traded back 3 picks and got a Mason Graham, and then they got the number 36 pick in Quinshon Judkins.
I love Mason Graham, bro. I love Mason Graham.
They got a 2026 first round pick. And now the Jacksonville Jaguars, if they don't have a good season and that pick becomes a top 10 pick, now it's like the haul was ridiculous.
You're looking at how the Bears did the Panthers, basically.
Yeah, I mean, now we saw the end result of that trade and what that looks like now. So I think the Jags, you're not in a position to give up that much because you have a lot of holes to fill on your team. So if you're going to give up, a couple picks in next year's first, you're acting like next year's first doesn't matter, or you're going to have to trade guys away to acquire that back. The Jaguars have questions everywhere. And I can understand what it looks like. Maybe they want to give Trevor Lawrence a better shot at being, a great quarterback in any given year by having Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter both out there to give him that opportunity. But you're kind of coming down to the wire with making a decision on whether Trevor Lawrence is the guy that you're going to, use moving forward, because he hasn't had a great couple years and he's been injured on and off. So I just think giving up a first rounder next year was just like, I don't understand it for a guy that's probably best position is probably going to be DB and isn't going to play two ways for more than 3 years in the NFL. Because
Right.
if you're getting hit like that in the NFL, dude, you're going to realize about 2-3 years in that you can't play both ways. You're going to have to pick one, and maybe you can give them some packages on the other side of the ball.
You gave up your franchise's future for the next 2 years for a guy who they say is a generational talent. Like you said, man,
Yeah.
you're not playing freaking like, I don't even know who Colorado plays, but you're not playing like the average college guys. This is the NFL, man. You're not going to do that shit. Like, it's just not going to happen. And then Travis Hunter basically being like, well, if they don't let me play both ways, I'm not going to play. I'll go back to college. It's like, that whole situation was just crazy to me.
And you know what's crazy for the Browns too is like, I just believe if you have a defined position player that everyone's saying is generational, instead of experimenting with Travis Hunter at number 2, you just take Abdul Carter. Like if you're just going to experiment and you're not sure, like I know they believe that he's going to play on both sides of the ball, and I think for a while he will. But again, you see how quickly running backs wear down when they just get hit over and over, and having that type of like these are not college players you're playing against anymore. They're NFL guys. You're going to be getting hit by linebackers. You're going up against guys like Jamar Chase, trying to cover them one-on-one. I mean, these are big dudes, and you're going to be taking hits over and over. So passing up on Abdul Carter, and then not only that for the Browns. Or for the Browns, I don't know why they passed up on him and then went with another defensive tackle there. But I do again like the haul that they got. But I don't understand not taking Abdul Carter at number 2.
Nah, because I was sitting there saying like, what's better? I mean, you don't got a great quarterback situation, but one thing you can hang your hat on if Abdul Carter is everything you say is, you got Abdul Carter, Myles Garrett on the opposite ends, man. That's going to create some freaking damage. Then, not to mention, you got Denzel Ward as your corner. Like, and then who's that other guy? Newsome, Greg Newsome, or whatever. Like, dude, they got some talent on that defensive side of the ball, bro. Like, you should have took Abdul Carter, stay pat, but you did get a haul. I love Mason Graham. I don't know if Mason Graham is a generational talent, but man, I love Mason Graham a lot. And then the Quinshon Judkins, I would have probably took Travion Henderson. I was pounding the table for the Commanders to take Travion Henderson at 61. I knew he was never going to get there, but I mean, I think you could have justified taking him at 29.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that the Browns, if you're talking about trade wise, like I said, it looked like draft day. What was the dude in draft day? It was Seattle, young, brand new GM for Seattle, freaking out.
Cleveland.
I think, and then Cleveland, Kevin Costner was representing Cleveland.
Yeah.
Bro, I think we had a draft day situation, man. That's the closest that I've ever seen. Honestly.
By the way, they let the Eagles do it again.
Oh my God!
They let the Eagles do it
started,
again,
bro. That hurt my heart.
Jahad Campbell could have been the first linebacker off the board. Probably was a top 12 guy.
I'm not taking him over Jalen Walker, but yeah, I agree with you.
There's 15. Guys that would and guys that wouldn't. All I know is he's from Alabama. So he's played against tough competition. He's supposed to go top 12. It reminds me, actually, there was a couple years ago that I really wanted Landon Dickerson, and he had an injury in his last year at Alabama. So he got passed over the entire first round, and now he looks like the best left guard in the NFL.
Right.
And we needed that as well because Nakobe Dean was going to be out for about half a season. And if Zach Bond went down, it was going to spell trouble for us. But plug and play guy there. And then I want to, like, the Giants had a good draft too. I hate to say it. When you get Abdul Carter going to you at 3.
If Jackson Dart pans out.
And we'll see how Jackson Dart pans out, right? But it's a good flyer to move back up in the first. They got the defensive tackle from Toledo, and then they got my guy from Arizona State, Scatabo. that
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
watched
yeah, yeah. Cam Scatterbo.
that I watched play some bowl games last year for the first time. He looked like he was going to throw up, but he kept trucking people. He had like 45 carries in the game. And I think if, there's this thing with white running backs too, dude. It's just like he definitely should have went earlier. Same
I
thing
don't
they're
know,
talking about with
man.
Christian
I
McCaffrey.
don't
With
know.
Christian McCaffrey, the same thing happened. They said he would have, at the time he got taken, would have been that top pick. But I get it. I mean, hard to take a guy like Cooper DeJean. There's not many of them, so it just
Yeah.
plays out that way.
I mean, I gotta applaud the Commanders, man, for that Josh Connerly pickup, the babyface bandit, dude. Like, if you want to see how he is, man, all you gotta do is look at this tape where he just
Oregon,
completely manhandled Abdul Carter the whole game,
Yeah.
whole game, bro. Like, he is a monster. I couldn't believe we had him there. I mean, it was crazy. Once I was elated. I didn't think I figured Adam Peters would take him because we brought him in for a couple visits and everything. But given the fact that Mike Green was still there, I loved Will Johnson, man. But I don't think Will Johnson went to a really good situation. Mike Green went to a great situation. You go to a defensive-minded place in Baltimore and you get those charges behind you. That dude is going to be a freak. I was surprised Jalen Walker did not go to the Panthers. I question the whole Tet McMillan thing. I'm not very high on Tet McMillan. I don't understand how Matt Golden goes to the Packers. You already got Jalen Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson.
Well, those guys.
Jair Alexander, bro,
Yeah.
he's on the fence about signing, and then you put him up for trade. He's also injury prone. You got
the
great
wide
corners
receivers.
there.
The wide receivers in Green Bay have had some injury issues, and
Jalen Reed, not Jalen Reed.
They don't have a true like number 2 guy.
Jaden Reed is their number one. Can we agree Jaden Reed is their number one? Jaden Reed is such a beast, man.
They needed someone, but I think Jordan Love is looking a little overrated as well. So we'll see how that works out.
100%.
So here's my question for you guys before we get out of here. Well, 2 questions. Who do you think is the biggest winner of the draft?
I'm still going to go with the Giants. Position of need, defensive end, shores up the defensive line while they're trying to figure out the offense. They got the guy that they believe is going to be their quarterback of the future in Jackson Dart. They got a running back position filled with Cam, and then they also drafted the DT from Toledo. I forget his name, but they filled both positions of needs and positions of the future, and they got in my opinion, the most sure thing in the NFL draft. So hats off, unfortunately, to the New York Giants.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I think you're looking at it. If I'm going to put money on, I think the Falcons and the freaking Eagles with that Jahai Campbell still is just fuck, man. Why does the NFL still keep letting the Eagles get richer, bro? It's crazy.
Real quick, if you're fucking 19 and 20-year-olds, you don't brag about it every time you go on your podcast with Ocho Cinco every single night and talk about how great your dick is and how you beat the pussy up at 60 years old, because all that's going to happen is the OnlyFans models and the people on Instagram listening to you, you just became a target. You just became a target.
Dude, I'm going to double down. I don't care. The internet's going to hate me, and I don't give a fuck. I stand on this. It's also, you don't do that to a 19-year-old white girl. I'm sorry, man. Get mad. Get fucking mad. I want all the hate. You don't do it to a 19-year-old white girl. Dude, this shit, bro. And then on top of that, her freaking attorney is Tony Busby, the same one who brought the allegations up against Jay-Z.
Yeah. But he brought it on. He painted himself as a target. My dick is this. My dick is that. I beat it up. Like every fucking episode, I was listening like, dude, someone's going to catch you, bro. Like you can't be that. You can't be that.
Telling that Stephen A. Smith did not. He came to Jay-Z. He said, I vouched for Jay-Z's character. I hear that same shit with Shannon Sharp, man.
Well, he just wanted people to think he knows Jay-Z like that.
I guess, but I'm gonna be real, man. What happens if Jay-Z came out and did that? Stephen A. Smith vouched. Nah, Stephen A. Smith knows something. And he's just not going to ride with him. He's my friend, but I'm not putting my fucking job on the line.
I think he's also in a different position now because they're talking about him potentially running for president in a couple years, and I think he's seriously considering it. Stephen A. Smith,
out of here, dude.
He's been in politics on his.
I would
TikTok
never
and
in a million years.
I know, but he's been asked to be the Democratic candidate. And I think that he's going to in the future be removing himself from those types of conversations and those type of people who are accused of those types of things. So,
B-Rock, would you vote for Stephen A. Smith?
No.
I could never.
Nah, he's the most
He
two-faced
the
motherfucker
shit out
I've
of me,
ever seen.
dude. Nah, man. Shannon Sharp, you can't do it, bro. It's 19 years old. What is he, like 53?
He's
53?
almost 60, I think, bro. I
Bro,
think he's 57.
Dude, that hurts my heart, man, because I don't look anything like Shannon Sharp. That dude is still ripped up, man. You can't do it, bro.
Just take some steroids, bro.
Yeah, man.
Right.
You can't fucking no. I would never. But you can't do it, bro. You can't. You know better. Like, you're right, man. You can't go on there talking all this shit and expect not to get a target on your back, man. And then, dude, I know I've always felt that shit that happened on, was it Instagram? Where he basically had that little sex act on Instagram.
He did it on purpose. Yeah,
it's a purpose, dude. Like, it's clout, bro. People do dumb shit for clout, man. And he just got he'll
be all right. He'll be all right. He's
probably going to lose tens of millions out of it, man. But he's still going to probably get about 50.
He'll be all right.
But hey, man, learn your lesson, dude. Don't be messing with these freaking young ass white girls, dude. You get charges on you.
All right, I ain't got shit else to say.
Go ahead, man. Get us out of here. What you doing?
Make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at dapodcav. That's DAPODCAV. Also, make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube and click them notifications so you know when we're dropping new content. And also listen to us anywhere your favorite podcasts are streamed. Back to you, B. Stop fucking with the white girls.
All right, Aaron, let the people know where they can find you.
TikTok.
Young white girls, dude. I gotta clean that up.
You can find me at TikTok and Instagram at Beresin Knows Ball, BERESIN Knows Ball. We try to post a couple times a week, so tune in.
There it is.
There we go.
And, for the record, I'll never stop fucking with the white girls. We out of here.